and so I changed them up to Holiday Inn Express. And I couldn't tell them just the credit card, and I had to go in, have them make a copy of the credit card and do all that, so I had to drive to the room. They couldn't just take my credit card. And
last 2 months, I think she's been #1 sales. Like 4 weeks. I did mean to call Jeff. I stopped. Just kind of see what was going on because
Okay, I don't think I need a microphone. I've been told I have a big mouth. I've been told that a whole lot lately. I want to thank everybody for coming out, and for those of you that I've never met, shame on me. My name's Todd Day, and I proudly serve the community as town manager. So again, I want to welcome you to the first of 10, is that correct? First of 6 Tazewell County Business Challenges, and I look forward to the results of it. It's really exciting. I think they chose a really good locality to start with, which was the town of Tazewell. Can I hear an amen or something? Hallelujah. All right. So again, welcome. I also want to let everybody know that if you are looking at the town of Tazewell as a potential business location, or you know of anybody that's looking at the town of Tazewell for a business location, or if you're even in the town of Tazewell and you're looking to expand, we have a revolving loan grant through USDA. So you can get some more information from that from the office. Just call our regular business office at Town Hall. We also have a lot of local incentives, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, at least up until 6 months ago, we were the only locality in the Commonwealth, according to CDBG, that has these type of local incentives. So those local incentives actually recognizes a business for up to 4 consecutive years to locate or expand within our political jurisdiction tax-free. Now, just at the local level. That doesn't mean the county or the state or the federal level. So I'd encourage you to look at the town of Tazewell. Obviously, I'm a little biased about that, and I do apologize. I'm very sorry. But again, welcome to the town of Tazewell. If you have any questions, I've got another meeting, an IDA meeting. I apologize, I can't stay. But we will obviously be available. So thank you very much for being here. I'm really excited about it and look forward to the final results. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I would say they saved the best for last, but I'm not last. So anyway, I want to welcome everyone here. We're glad to see all these participants. And first of all, I'm Pam Ward, and I work at the county in economic development. IDA is the fiscal agent for this program, and we're going to get things started pretty quickly. So I'd like for you to just introduce yourself.
I'm Clint Neal. I have Your Great Escape, restaurant and catering business here in Tazewell.
I'm Colin O'Donnell from Bluefield, and we're looking to open a coffee shop.
Jeff Shepard, I'm from Bluefield, and I'm in graphic design and creative advertising.
I am Blake Gray. I am from Richlands. I currently live in Charlottesville, and we are looking to open a craft brew tap house in downtown Richmond.
Debbie Ratliff, Foxtail Orchards Cabins and Campgrounds. We currently have 2 cabins on the back of the Dragon. Name tag says Matthew, but Matthew had a previous engagement tonight, so Andrew and I are along for the ride.
Marco Warner with Trust Point Insurance.
Debbie Ratliff, Appalachian Hemp and Richmond.
I'm Bill Haver, and this is my daughter Jessica, and our company is Appalachian Treasures, and we're trying to get started with our ideas for like a craft or antique farm in Bluefield.
Great. Kathy McClanahan, I'm looking to start antiques, vintage collectibles shop out of my house and eventually have a DVD and a gift venue there, and it's in Greater Downtown Mordale.
I'm Susan Jewell, representing Get Well LLC, which will be a wellness coaching service.
Melissa Mitchell from Scraps and Stuff. I'm located in Stillsboro Plaza where Bellassina is.
And I'm Vicki Booth. I own Between Friends here on Main Street.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. Before we get started with the speakers, I want to ask Mike Himes, one of the board of supervisors, if he would like to say something. Putting you on the spot, Mike.
Just made it in time, didn't I? Well, I'm a small business owner too. That was what I was doing, checking somebody in my small business over here. When I heard about this challenge, I thought it was one of the best ideas that we could ever do for Tazewell County. Okay? The lifeblood of this county is not some big company coming in here and doing something. It's people like you that are willing to invest your time and your money and take the risk to have things for us in this county. And that's why we need to support small business and support people here. I know folks say, oh, I'll buy this on Amazon, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. Yeah, you can, but don't come to me and complain that there's nothing to buy in Tazewell County if you do that. You know? All of you I know have a great idea. I'll be tickled to hear what your ideas are as we go through this process. And I just am so glad that we're doing it and that we're able to support it as a county. So thank you for being here, and thank you for what all of you are doing for the county.
I totally agree with Mr. Himes. We're excited about all the new businesses and existing ones too. And as far as many, if you ever need anything or you have an idea you want to run by me, just give me a call and I'll be glad to come meet with you. And now let's have some fun. Let's not lighten up a little bit. Sandy promises that at the end of 7 weeks she's going to dance and sing for everybody. And lighten up a little bit. So our first speaker is Mike Laney. He owns the Well Coffee Shop here in Tazewell. Mike, you're up.
Hey, Mike, you're up. I was distracted, sorry.
Sorry. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Mike Laney. My wife and I own the Well Coffee Shop up here on Main Street. Some of you that may know that's where it's at. I'm not much on the speaking, as you can tell, so you'll have to forgive me. I'll do my best. I get a little nervous. I had to write down bullet points so I wouldn't forget stuff and just ramble on. But come on and explain the story, the vision that my wife and I had for the Well Coffee Shop. It all started about 3 years ago, actually, in September. We had heard that there was going to be a coffee shop on Main Street, and we're faith-based. We're not going to preach at you when you come in, but if you want to come in, we'll gladly be there for you, pray for you, whatever. But that's all on you. So my wife and I were live along in our faith, and she drove by the empty building one day, and she just felt the Lord tell her, me and her are supposed to open up this coffee shop. So that's how our story got started. It's been an interesting 2.5 years. We've learned a great deal. Some things maybe I wouldn't do again, but it's been an extreme learning experience. I would probably do them, you know, I made a few mistakes, but I would probably do them again. Simply because I need to learn from them. We've all heard that. You know, you learn from your mistakes, and believe me, we have. I know a lot of you, some of you folks, y'all been in business longer than I have, so y'all can probably teach me a few things. But as far as guidance goes, I know Margie Douglas, where she went, she was an extreme help down at the Small Business Development Center down at Community College. So if you're just getting started, she's the lady to go see. I couldn't tell you how helpful she truly was to Venus and I. We emailed for probably 2 or 3 months back and forth about business plans. Well, look at this. What do you think? Well, and she gave me a huge amount of guidance because, you know, the well itself, I work there, well, me and my wife will work there on occasion when there's a special event. Otherwise, we kept our day jobs, so this is kind of a weekend deal for us. But some of the pros that we've got to see is meeting some very interesting folks that come through from all over. Even the short times that that I am there, I got to meet a guy from Austria. He came over and was traveling through on a motorcycle. I thought that was pretty cool. We left a journal out front. I think we got it from you, didn't we? Just so people could say, hey, this is who I am, this is where we came from, and it's we filled it up and had a good time. So it's been an extremely cool experience to meet folks that I would have never met before in my life. Because I like to stay to myself. I like to hide in the back. And of course, you know, some of the cons about opening a business and running a business, I'm sure Clint could say amen. Equipment failure. Amen. Something to be prepared for is equipment failure. I've worked with, I've been dealing with an air pop brewer for the last 2 weeks. Issue after issue after issue after issue. I think I got it finally figured out, but still, it's something to keep in mind. No matter what your business may be, is stuff breaks down. It happens. There's not a whole lot you can do about it, but fix it and go on. And I know as far as our shop, we don't have a full kitchen. We still have to be health inspected, but we don't have a full kitchen. So we're kind of limited on things that we can make and produce. We do sandwiches and, of course, our espresso drinks and regular coffee and whatnot. But we don't have a full kitchen, but we still have to be health inspected. So the health inspector's only in there 10-15 minutes. He's done because it's not that big. I mean, our little kitchen area is probably about the size of this table. I said, don't take him long to go, yep, everything good. But of course, that's all I got about that. Social media, I know some of you guys are already on social media. That is a huge, huge player. Make sure you're going to social media. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, there you go. Now my wife is better at the marketing side than I am. She'll want me to put on a post and then she'll go back in and fix it and do it better. But she couldn't be here tonight because she's actually at her day job. So I got the opportunity to be here. But I highly encourage you, if you don't do social media, look into it. It's free. Facebook's free. Instagram's free. Now they do have places where you can boost your ads and so forth and so on. I haven't done any of those myself personally, but if you think that's what you want to do, I highly recommend it. But yeah, by all means, Facebook. Facebook, Twitter, social media. Get it out there. I know, and I always try to keep in the budget somewhat to give back to the community. I kind of set back about 10%, 12%, just so I can, give back. I would love to be able to give more, but I've got to keep the doors open too. And I'm sure, if you're not in business, you're getting ready to start business, you're going to have a lot of these, you're going to have a lot of folks that are, wanting you to help sponsor this and sponsor that. That's going to be something you'll have to take upon your heart and say, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do that. No, I'm sorry, I can't. Just right now, I can't. But that's something budget you want to keep in mind as well, because it was nothing I thought about at the time. And then we get approached for, can you do this and can you do that, and it was this, and I was like, oh wow. I never, it never dawned on me. So that's something to keep in mind if you're not in business yet and you're getting there. As far as equipment goes, one of my favorite tools is probably Square. I use Square for credit card processing. I got the little cash register. I use it for everything. My employees clock in, clock out. I pay Square to take care of their taxes. I pay Square to send them their W-2s at the end of their W-4s. Their tax information, they take care of it, and that's not something I need to do. I'm not an accountant by any means. So I highly recommend that. If you're getting started out, definitely look into Square just for that purpose, even if that. It's not that expensive, and in this day and age, a lot of people don't carry cash. I mean, everybody's got their card, their Apple phone, or something of that nature. So that's just something to keep in mind. I can't really think of anything, but if you've got any questions, I'll definitely. Anybody got any questions?
Yeah. I have one, Mike.
Okay.
I know the profit margin for food is very narrow.
4%.
So when you started, did you just decide just to do a few items and manage those very successfully and then add to your menu? Or did you go full tilt?
Well, that is a great question, Ginger. And when we started out, we decided to do just a few things. And I constantly have to bring in my wife because she's like, ooh, let's try this. Ooh, let's try that. And we're very limited on space. So I said, okay, if you want to try something new, something else has got to go, because we don't have room for everything. So when we started out, we did, we do sandwiches. We do chicken salad, chicken salad, ham and Swiss, stuff that, you can get out of the refrigerator, put it together, you're good to go. We don't do hamburgers, hot dogs, stuff that requires a full-on kitchen. I don't have, and I can't do it. I ain't got no space for it. But yeah, that is a good question.
Do you have vision to expand?
I don't know where I would expand to.
Okay.
I've had a lot of people ask me, hey, would you be interested in putting a place in Bluefield or mostly Richlands? Would you be interested in opening up a place down there? I've considered it. I've looked at it. That would be interesting. I would like to do it, but this one up here keeps me busy enough. And again, I got to say, I got a day job. So I put 40 hours there, and then another good 15, 20 there, and I just don't know if I would have time to do that. But I've considered it, I've thought about it. Yeah.
Were you able to turn a profit right away, or did it take some time?
Well, of course, my first year being new, we had, I was like, oh yes, everything's great. And it kind of, the second year, it slowed down just a little bit. This is going on my third year, I guess. And it's starting to creep back up just a little bit. Now, I've always heard, don't expect profit your first year. At the end of the year, I kept my head above water. Again, that 4%, there's not a lot in there. Say $50,000, only 2,000. I don't remember what my year was. But my first year, no. Second year, no. Third year, I'm seeing it starting to creep up a little bit. And I'm just hoping and praying it keeps going that direction. Anybody else got a question?
Are you doing any type of activities or events to bring people in, or really just sell coffee?
We have a tendency whenever, well, especially here, the town has been awesome about putting on these events for Main Street moments, car shows, cruise-ins, veterans parades, the Christmas parade. Anytime there's an event on Main Street, we'll definitely stay open for that. We have not ourselves bought any events. We actually did.
Like book club or anything?
Right. Well, they do have we're starting a book club October the 11th. The library is going to be sponsoring it that morning, an inspiration book club, which is pretty good. And they'll be doing that on Friday mornings. But us ourselves, we did a couple of, my wife sings praise and worship at our church. And we tried a couple of nights of praise and worship, and we had a fairly good turnout. But that's really about all we've been able to do. Again, her and I both have day jobs, and usually when Saturday gets here, we're just like, I just want to nap. I don't want to do anything. So we really haven't done anything ourselves to put ourselves out there to do something, event-wise. I would like to do that, I really would. But I know Main Street, this past year, I think about every weekend, just about every weekend, something was going on. So I didn't really need to bring in that, but I know it's kind of slowing down this time of year, obviously. But that is something that, yeah, I would like to look into it and do a little something.
Mike, I've always heard you pay yourself first.
Yeah.
Have you been able to get a paycheck?
No. Now, I did start out the first year that we was new and everybody was coming to try us and give us a try. I did start out with a small, just to say, hey, I am paying myself. But then as the second year came and sales were not quite as good, I cut Venus' salary out back first. And then, I was always the one there. So, she told me to. But, we kind of cut ourselves back until things could pick back up. And I'd rather look at my bank statement and say, okay, I still got money in the bank, and look at it and go, oh Lord, where's the money coming from? So, to me, I would prefer to do that, take that sacrifice, and because I call them my kids, because I'm old enough to be their dad, all of them. I'd rather have my kids paid and taken care of than I would myself. And me and Venus will usually do events Friday nights, Saturday nights. If there's something on Main Street, I like to do that. Mostly, I'll make a few bucks in tips. But I'm good with that. I'm content. Yeah, I would like to get back to being able to pay myself.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've talked about that before, haven't we?
Any other questions for Mike?
Pardon?
I said, any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you. Good evening. Hi, my name is Sandy Rattler. I will be your cruise director as a partner with Pam for the next 6 weeks. This is something that I have been a strong cheerleader for in Southwest Virginia for a long time. I've been working on business challenges throughout Southwest Virginia for probably the last 10 years. And I appreciate, I know this is not just Tazewell County, but this is a collaboration between all the towns and the county, and this is something very unique, and I'm proud to be a part of this, and you should be proud of your community leaders to collaborate to do this and to put up the funding. But I have the task of going over our guidelines.
Sandy, could you mind speaking up? I can hardly hear you.
Or you can move up closer. Well, I've got a microphone on, and I don't want to scream, so you can move up closer if you don't mind. But each one of you all have a notebook there. And let me tell you what's in that. If you recall, when you looked at the business challenge, there was discussion. You had to review the guidelines and so forth. That's something that I want to go over. And at the end of my discussion, or before you leave here tonight, you need to sign off on those guidelines, check that you know and understand everything. And then sign that, and then Pam's going to have that in the files. And as we go through and I go over the guidelines, you'll see why we're doing this now. Because, again, this is public funds are going into this. But I want to tell you a little bit about who I am and why I'm here. I work for Virginia Community Capital. If you've not heard of us, we are a nonprofit community development financial institution, but we have a for-profit bank. We're one of 9 in the nation that's made like that, which allows us to work on projects like with Tazewell County, but also help with communities that are doing projects that are maybe tough to fund. And we were put together with the help of, at the time, Governor Mark Warner, because he saw that there was a gap in financing for harder to do deals in Virginia, and he helped us to get the first initial $15 million to start Virginia Community Capital. And we actually have done a lot in the last number of years. For the past 12 years, we've helped to, through financing of projects, we've helped to create and retain over 6,400, it's really more over like 66,000 or 6,600 jobs in Virginia. And we concentrate on 3 lines of business. One is community impact. That's the team that I work in, and that's where we go out into communities and to help with projects like this, or helping with organizations that are doing anything to support the redevelopment and helping business grow in Virginia. And I'm focused on just Southwest Virginia. We also do lending. We have a real estate lending team. You're going to meet Ernie Maddie on the week of credit and financing. Ernie is our real estate lender who's got a number of years of experience in lending in Southwest Virginia. And then we also do small business lending, and you're going to unfortunately not be able to meet Cindy Snyder. She was supposed to be here in 2 weeks, but we have a mandatory meeting in Richmond, and somebody had to be there, so she's representing us up there. But Cindy is our small business lender. We do everything from debt financing to working capital, equipment purchasing. We've even helped with businesses that are buying a franchise business. But what we want to do is we're not here to compete with banks. We're here to help you when there is that, I just can't get the deal to go. And we look at that. Now, we do have a board of directors, and we're not just giving out money. We look at everything. So, you know, next week you're going to talk, the subject is about credit and managing your business. And I tell you, we look at things like that because if an organization's investing in you, they want to make sure, are you going to be able to pay that debt back? The other thing we look at is if we can't help you, we're going to provide you with counseling or recommendations or referrals of other organizations that might could help you. Now, we're not a micro lender. We do not do any financing under $150,000. We go $150 to $5.4 million. But there are micro lenders here in Southwest Virginia. You're going to meet on the night of the banking and financing is People Incorporated has a micro loan program that can help you. Also, have you heard of Cumberland Plateau Planning District Commission? They have a revolving loan fund that goes as low as $25,000. And I have information on that. But so there's opportunities here. And over the next 6 weeks, we want to introduce you to all of these opportunities that are available to you, because I've worked in a number of organizations around the state, and Southwest Virginia is rich in resources. It's just we got to get people to connect with those resources. That's part of the program that we're doing here. The other thing to why we're here tonight is the Thompson Foundation provided grant funding to actually pay Virginia Community Capital do this program. You know, Thompson Foundation has been doing some great things in Buchanan and Tazewell counties, and this is where they're focused on to help with both business development, community development, economic development. They want to help this region transform from, you know, for years we focused on the below ground assets, and now we're transforming Southwest Virginia to look at our above ground assets. We know where we came from, but we want to change and transform, and that's why I know there's some tourism related businesses here that we've worked with, and you know, this is something you need to look at. But the 3-year project is to not only do business challenge, but we want to do some workshops. Last August, we did a workshop on online marketing at the Business One Stop in, no, it's a new name in Richlands, the Appalachian, is it One Stop? And we hope to do more workshops that can help you build your skills, whether that be how do you finance a business, marketing, video development, online marketing, whatever you need. That's one of the things we want to learn from the next 6 weeks is what other things, because just the next 6 weeks is not just where we want to stop. That is over time, over the next few years. You need help as you grow. We want you to know that there's a resource there to help you. In your book is also a list of mentors. I encourage you to not lose that list, and actually I put that list on everybody's got a flash drive. On that flash drive is a copy of the guidelines, the mentor list, but also some templates on how to develop a business plan, how do you look at doing a credit analysis, and some other things. So you've got the resources there, and the reason we're doing the flash drive is as you do your business plan, no matter where you're at, switching out computers, you're going to meet with Margie to help you. You've got that, all that information at your fingertips wherever you're at. So help is there. That's what we want you to know. So now the boring part is talking about guidelines. To be able to compete for the money and to receive the reimbursement, which you'll have to go through scary Pam back there when you are ready to, if you win money and you have to request a payout or a reimbursement, is you have to be a for-profit business. You have to be located in Tazewell County or the towns of Bluefield, Cedar Bluff, Pocahontas, Richlands, and Tazewell. So if you're on the West Virginia side of Bluefield, you can't compete. Can't be part of it. If you're in Washington County or Russell County, this is a Tazewell County project. So you have to be here. So I know everybody in here has already met that threshold. Now, one of the things too that why we're doing this and why the towns and county are investing in this is through job creation and creating new tax revenue in the communities. But one of the things too, if you're the winner of the $5,000 prize, you have to create at least one job during a 12-month period after receiving that. Now, we've been kind on the guidelines for what stipulates a full-time job, and we've actually are using what the accountable care is looking at, and that's 32 hours per week or 2 part-time equivalent is what we consider as a full-time job. Now that's for existing business. If you are a startup, you as the business owner are considered the full-time job creator. Any questions on that? You also, before Pam will reimburse you for your expenses, we don't give you the money up front, by the way. That is reimbursable, so you have to make that purchase of whatever you're going to say in your business plan that you're going to do. You're going to add a piece of equipment, you're going to build something. You have to show receipts that you have made that investment, and then she will reimburse you during that time. But we also, if you are starting a business, Pam will have to see proof that you've gotten your licenses, taxes, all of that set up to make sure that you're legit. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question on that where you said that you have to do the job for 1 or 2 part-time.
Yeah.
And it's only for the startup people. It's, I started in April, so I wouldn't be counted as one.
Now, if you've been in business for over a year, you are not. So if you've been less than a year, you are considered a startup. And there's always a discussion. I know our friend at the director at the SBDC for the the SCORE in Virginia, we debate about that. He thinks that you need to be a longer time frame, but you know, hopefully within a year's time, you know, you've got the kinks worked out and you're ready to start generating some revenue. So we have to have some guidelines. So that's what we're going with.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Quick question on the reimbursement. So can that be retroactive to what's already happening, or is that?
No.
So it has to be.
Not unless, when you submit your application, if you bought something after that, we would look at that. But technically, it couldn't be anything until after the business challenge. Okay? Other questions? I'm glad you're asking these, because if you're like me, if I don't ask them when I'm thinking about it, it's gone. Now, if you're a participating existing business, we've had this come out. As I said, I've been doing business challenges for a number of years, and we have found if you give someone a chance at some money, they're going to figure out every loophole that they could possibly do to make the criteria. And we had someone trying to do this in another community that said, well, I want to hire my husband. He's unemployed to be the full-time job, but I don't think she was going to provide him an income, which is technically not a full-time job, which means he's not paying taxes on it. So we added that you would have to show Pam, the scary one back there, proof of either from your IRS 940 or your 941 tax employment report that you send to the IRS. She needs to see proof of that. Sorry, we all pay for others' mistakes, and that's part of it. Any questions on that? Now, how are you scored? And I think on your flash drive, I did upload a copy of what the judges are going to look at with both your pitches and your business plan. But you're going to be scored on the strength of your business plan, the quality and the impact that you make on your business presentation. And those are two different judge groups that's going to be looking at that. And if you recall, when you reviewed the guidelines before you signed up, attendance is mandatory. You get one excused absence, but we need to know about that ahead of time. You need to contact Pam or myself. We know that things happen, but the reason we're really strict on that is because everything that we cover over the next 6 weeks is critical. We got a lot of people that's going to be coming and presenting to you, a lot of talented folks, and you are missing out if you're not able to participate in that, and that's why we're doing it this way. The business plans are going to be judged by folks that are not here in Tazewell County. I personally hand deliver to people in other counties, and sometimes I go across to Tennessee, which this year I am having some Tennessee folks view your business plans. And why we're doing that, we don't want any question that there is any favoritism whatsoever. And we don't tell you who those business plan judges are either. We keep those anonymous, but they are folks that are in the finance or small business arena that will score that. Now the sixth night is pitch night. You will see those judges because they'll be sitting there where Marco is, and you'll have 4 judges, and they will judge you based on, you know, when you got your 8 minutes to present, they're going to judge you on the effectiveness of what you communicated, what you're planning to do, which why we do this is exactly, if you go to Virginia Community Capital or to First Community Bank or anybody, your pitch is important to making them feel, is this business legit? Is this something that's important, that you've done your research, that you know exactly what you're going to be doing, how much money you need, what it's going to be used for, how you're going to service that debt, you know, showing who your competition is, you know, all the research that kind of goes into your business plan. That's just kind of your fast facts when it comes to your business that you're going to present. And again, you've got 8 minutes to present that. And I encourage you, I beg you, don't wait till the last night to work on your business plan and work on your business pitch. You will not be effective. You can tell, I've done enough business pitches over the years, you can tell to somebody that's prepared and that somebody that did not prepare. But if you were trying to ask somebody to invest in your business, if I ask you for $1,000 to invest in my business, what would you want to know? And that's, what is it you're going to be doing? Is there a market for it? You know, is there competition? How are you going to generate the revenue? You know, I'm going to buy this piece of equipment as part of the business plan, and I know that I'm going to be able to pay for that, or that's going to help me increase revenue blank. If you want to look, over the years we've been streaming those, like the Washington County Business Challenge. They're up on YouTube. You could just go to YouTube and search for Washington County Business Challenge. There's some for Floyd, Virginia. There's some great business pitches up there. I can send everybody a link where you can watch those, but please practice. Find somebody, if you want somebody that will critique you and give you that real feedback. I've got 2 sisters, I guarantee they'll give you feedback whether you like it or not if you want to use those, because they've done it all my life. But find a friend or a couple of people and practice, practice, practice. Come in there prepared. If you want to, for example, catering, if you want to provide food for the judges and the audience, or if you are making a product, I encourage you to bring anything that can display and show the judges exactly what you're wanting to do. Whether that be, you can use a PowerPoint, you can use video, I don't care what you do in that 8 minutes, it's up to you to sell that. But that's something you need to look at and start planning. Any questions? No bewildered looks? Okay. As I mentioned, you're granted 1 excused absence. If you are going to be absent and if you have a partner or someone in your business, they have to attend in your place. That's important. Again, hopefully what they can do is provide the notes and so forth. But that can't be a habit. You've got 1 absent and that's it. Okay? No question on that. If you're going to be the owner and you're going to be the lead in this, your attendance is very important. Now another thing, this has happened before, that's why it's in the guidelines. If you're over 15 minutes late, you're going to be considered a no-show. Again, what happens at the very beginning, we hate to be strict like this, but you have to take this serious. And as just business owners and so forth, especially if you're asking people to invest in you, you've got to have some discipline. Now I know there's emergencies that come up, and if that happens, let Pam or myself know, but that is pretty strict on us, okay? There may be occasions, it's October now, it's hard to believe when it's 90 degrees that we have to look at inclement weather, but it could be flooding, and who knows, the snow might start in November, early November, we don't know. If there's anything that happens, and it could be that where we're going, the location that we're going to have the session, something happened, that we have to move to some other place. We will notify you either by email or we will keep it posted on the Tazewell County business page for the challenge on Facebook, and then the Tazewell County IDA Economic Development has a Facebook page. But we'll notify you some way about where the change is. Again, we'll let you know. Now, the prizes. Thanks again to the town and county for collaborating. We have $15,000 total prizes this year. And how that's made up, we'll have a startup prize of $5,000. will have a second place of $1,500 and a third place of $500 in the startup category. And existing will be the same thing, $5,000 for the first place, second place $1,500, and third place is $500. We will also have awards for the best business pitch for the night, which means whoever has the highest score that night, they will win an extra $500. And then when we have the business plan scores, there'll be another opportunity for you to win another $500. So if you do good, you can win it at a total of $6,000 in awards. There's 10 of you, so there's competition, but that's hopefully you're going to win something. Now, we will let you know, we have not set a date and a location for when the awards will be announced, but we will let you know definitely before the challenge is over with. We're working out those details, but there will be some type of ceremony either at the Industrial Development Authority meeting or something that you know, we can get you, find out who the winners are, and get you some free press and all that kind of stuff. Any questions on the awards? Gosh, this is going great. Now, your business plans that you submit are confidential. I don't even look at them. I just grab them when we get them all put together and turned in to Pam. I'll just come, we'll put them in 3 different bags, and they go in my trunk, and then I go and start delivering those to the judges. I never see what's in it. I don't want to know what you're going to be doing. So that is, just so you know, that we're not just out giving out your information. We know that there's information that's confidential in there, and we're very adamant to keep that confidential. If you are a winner, especially with the 5,000, the first place winners, part of the requirement before Pam will give you a reimbursement is we know that there's going to be struggles over the next 6 months to a year after you start or grow your business. That's why that mentor list is important to us. Pam wants to know that you are seeking, that you're not trying to do this solo. I mean, Marco was volunteering his time tonight to come, and he's a business owner. But there's mentors there on that list that can help you, whether it be you want, like Margie can help you with your business plan. There's mentors from the Virginia Tourism Corporation that might could help you talking about marketing. There's banking. There's a variety of the mentors on there. Reach out to them. And if there's somebody on there or a certain business sector that you would like for us to try to add, let us know and we'll try to find that mentor. Okay? That's important. And we're doing this for you. Not so much us, but we want you to make sure that you're successful. That's the only reason we're doing this. Yes, ma'am?
If we went to, we can go to different ones, we don't have to stay with one.
Oh, no. That's why we gave you the whole 2-page list.
We can go to 6 different ones.
Yeah. It's just Pam needs to know that you're getting that help, that hand-holding along the way. And again, these are things that we've learned over the years, that we don't want you just put you out in the sea on a raft and you don't have any way to go forward. Okay? Now, the other thing, the IDA is allowing Pam, and as part of this is not her, full-time job to just concentrate on the business challenge. So we want to be conscious of her time, and that's why if you are ready for a disbursement of funds, we require at least a 2-week notice, which means you send Pam a note with the invoice of what you're needing, and then she can reimburse you that way. Okay? Any questions? Y'all are just agreeing to everything. Oh, and be sure that if you've met with a mentor, there's some kind of a record that you have met, either an email response, follow-up, or something, that business card, just so that she knows that you've met with that mentor. Now, the definition of a startup, and we've already kind of alluded to this, if you've been in business for less than 12 months, you are considered a startup business. That's pretty self-explanatory. And what we look at to determine how long you've been in business It could be for when you got your first sale is probably the best way to judge that, because it takes a while to get your business license and so forth before you start producing. But when you start getting that first sale, whatever it is, that's when your business starts. Questions? Okay. Man, we did pretty good. Now, we're not just going to reimburse you for just fluff stuff. And also, we're not going to reimburse you that after you've won, you decide, I want to change my business. I don't want to do XYZ. I want to do something else. Sorry. You were judged by the business pitch judges and by the business plan based on the merit of what you said you were going to do. So if you change, you're out. Questions? And you know why we're doing that, right? Because you submitted and you were judged based on what you said you were going to do. If you said you were going to do a taco truck, and then you decide, I want to make t-shirts instead of doing a taco truck, sorry, buckaroo, you're not going to get it. Okay? Sandy, I do have a comment. They're not afraid of me now. They're afraid of you. Oh, y'all not been around here enough to know. Each grant will provide up to 12 months of reimbursable. So again, for startups, it can take you a while to get started. But after 12 months, if you've not used the money, it goes back into the program. You should be able to do it in 12 months. Okay? Existing business winners, you will not receive the final $2,500 until you show proof that you have created that one full-time job. And we would want to see that within at least 6 to 9 months before we give you that last $2,500. This is something that's just happened to us on another challenge where they won and they were asking for their final reimbursement, and we find out that's a great thing about small towns. People talking, you've got friends everywhere. We found out that they were actually selling off their equipment and closing the doors, but yes, they were asking us for the final $2,500, but they had not had the doors open for a number of weeks, which means they're not doing that 32 hours per week job, even if it was the existing or startup. So they're not getting that final $2,500. And we're doing this again. This is public funds that are being invested in your business, and that's why it's important to you. And again, the business has to be located in Tazewell County or the towns, and businesses must have a storefront or zone for business location.
There's me out.
Well, in your case for lodging, in like agriculture, there is a waiver down in the guidelines. I didn't put every bullet, but we know that your business will not be on a storefront, and we know that. But we're not having somebody say that they have a business in their basement. You can kind of read between the lines. We just want to keep everything legit. And plus, why some of the towns are doing this, and I know all of them are doing it, is because there is vacant property around in the counties and towns. And we want to get those buildings filled, because that helps us all, the way it looks. You cannot see this, but hopefully you can see it on your flash drive. But there are 3 sheets of different things of what the business plan judges look at for what your plans are. It could be, again, what goes into a business plan, which you'll have templates, and I know Margie will talk about more, is, your executive summary. What is your product? Is there demand for it? If you say that you're going to be manufacturing 8-track tapes, you probably will not get a very strong score. Do y'all know what 8-track tapes are? Remember cassettes? Okay. So you probably will not get a very good score doing that. The management too, if you say, I want to start and I've had this a lot. Someone said that I want to start a restaurant. Okay, what experience do you have in the food business? Well, I eat in restaurants. I mean, I've had that happen. You're going to be scored on that. That this is what you put in, you know, your marketing plan, your marketing analysis, your time frame that you're going to be doing it, your financial data. That's very important. If you say you're going to do something, you need to learn to do those spreadsheets, those performers, because again, if you're going to a commercial lender or someone like People Incorporated or Virginia Community Capital, we're going to need to know that. So there's help and there's some templates on your flash drives. Any other questions? By the way, one of the things too that we ask the judges, especially on the business plans, under each category, you'll see there that says comments. We want them to provide you feedback. That's critical because you need to know. If you were very weak in this area, you want to know that because you want to build from that. And if it puts a question mark in their mind, again, we want to help you. So we will provide you, after the awards are announced, we will provide you all of the judging sheets just for you from the 3 judges. The same way with the business pitch. You need that feedback. And, excuse me, those business pitches are really important to you. Have y'all gone and asked for a business loan? Anybody gone for a business loan request? They ask you a lot of questions. They want to know. You can tell when someone's giving you their pitch if they've done their homework. And the worst thing you can do is to go and sit down in front of that lender and they say, how much money do you want? And you say, how much can you give me? Let me tell you, you get lots of marks against you on that. And on the business plan, you're judged basically on 5 major areas. Business concept, the niche within the county or the region for your business, what sets you apart, the likelihood of your plan to be successful. The other thing, if you use visual aids, were they beneficial to you? Are they just there and you're doing another song and dance? Again, that's why you need people to help you when you're working your business pitch. Find some friends and mentors that you work with and ask them to give you that feedback. And then was your pitch delivered within the time limit? Again, 8 minutes. Do your practicing. And then after the 8 minutes, we'll allow probably about 2 or 3 minutes for the business judges, the pitch judges to ask you questions. Maybe they didn't understand when you were talking about your financing, how much money you're putting in or whatever it is. If you didn't include that or didn't give enough information, they could make comments. Because again, they want to know that the chances of you being successful in Tazewell County is good. So we're giving that feedback. And that's basically the overview of the guidelines. Again, what we want to do, and I want you to notice too, if you'll turn to page 2 in your hymnal, we've had a change in a location from when we sent the guidelines initially, and that's the only change that we did in the guidelines. Instead of, on October the 29th, instead of it being at the Cedar Bluff, we're actually going to be across the street at the Tazewell County, at the administration building. So just note that. That's the only change that we've made on these guidelines since we sent this out to you. Which one is that?
It's on the finance, where's the money? And the major items that I discussed and went over have lines beside of them on your guidelines. If you would initial those, that you know of what's required, and don't forget, the business plans are due on November I had it just November the 12th by 5 p.m. If you are 5:40 p.m., you're too late, unless you have it postmarked, because I got to get them in my little ride and go delivering them, because the business plan judges are doing this at their time, and we want to give them at least a week to 2 weeks to review and score those business plans. And by the way, a business plan, which Margie can tell you, does not need to be the size of a Sears and Roebuck catalog. And we don't want that. That's one of the things we say in the guidelines to keep it, because surely in no more than 20 pages, and I'm just throwing that number out, you can basically tell about your business, what you're going to be doing, how you're going to generate revenue, what's your market out there, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So tonight, before you leave, we'll just need that signed and turned back in. And again, you've got those guidelines on your flash drive, yes.
Is there a minimum on the business plan, or what would it take to get?
Well, I'll tell you, I had, early on a business challenge, I had someone turn in a one-sheeter. They didn't even get. So.
When we fill out the application for salaries, these were attached to you.
Were they signed? If you send in with your application the signed, where you signed off and initialized, you don't have to do it, but we just need, Pam has to have these in your file. And any questions? And don't forget that mentor list. Okay? Questions? And I guess, Margie, I will turn that over to you.
Hey everybody, it's good to be here tonight. I wanted to tell you a couple of things first of all before we get started about the Small Business Development Center. We are located on the campus of Southwest Virginia Community College. We are successful with our businesses because we're local. Our services are free of charge and they're confidential. So if you come into my office and you start talking about a business that you'd like to start or something, maybe you want to expand your business, I don't go out next door and tell the next person that what you're going to do. So we pride ourselves on being able to keep those services confidential. In the room of the folks that are participating, how many are already existing businesses? 3, 4. Okay. All right. And so the rest of you are just getting started, correct? All right. Yay. That means there's what, 6 people in here that are getting ready to start new businesses. Okay. All right. Okay. So we've got a lot of things to talk about, but if you will look in your packets that have the SBDC information on there, we all have guidelines and things that we have to take care of. So there is a registration form. If you would please fill that out for me, that would help me greatly. The other thing is, at the end of this session, if you wouldn't mind to do an evaluation on what I am presenting tonight. And the last thing that I wanted to tell you about is there's a great opportunity that's coming up October the 21st. It's going to be at the Virginia Higher Ed Center. The reason it's in Abingdon is because it's a regional event that's happening all the way from Galax to Lee County. And what it is, it's called Boost Your Business Resource Fair, but it's going to have all kinds of wonderful information about bookkeeping, tax tips, financing your business. There's going to be a lot of financing resources there. There's going to be the Procurement Technical Assistance Center is going to be there to tell you how to sell your product or service to the government. So there's going to be a lot of things. I think Mike had mentioned Square. I think the Square representatives are going to be there so they can give you more information on how to use their product. So tonight I really want to talk to you a little bit about getting started, and I apologize because some of you may have already heard some of this simply because you already are in business. Some of you already know it, but tonight I want to talk to you a little bit about getting your business up and going. I want to ask you some questions. Are you ready to start your business? Okay. All right. So have you worked in a similar business that you're wanting to start? If you haven't already started, have you worked in that type of business before? And these are questions you don't have to answer to me, but to yourself. No, that's good. Another key factor is, do you have the support of your family and friends? If you do not have family support, it's going to be a really tough road. And would you say that that your friends and family would say that you're entrepreneurial, meaning that you are one that likes to take a little bit more financial risk than most? And have you ever taken a small business course, seminar, or specialized training? So if you have done some of those things, then you might be ready to start a business. So some of the personal characteristics. Do you consider yourself a leader? Do you like to make your own decisions? Do you enjoy competition? Do you have willpower and self-discipline? That's where it gets a lot of us. Do you plan ahead? Are you a planner? I know that most of the successful businesses that I work with, they plan. They look at the products that they're going to be offering or the services that they want to offer months ahead of when they actually do it. Do you like people? If you don't like people, that might not be something that you want to do, is start a business. Do you get along with other people? Would people say that you're outgoing? Are you a good listener? Now, you may not be a people person. You may not get along with others. There are small businesses that you can start that you'll do great with, because there's a lot of the back room folks that really excel. But if you're going to work with the public, it might be a good thing to like people. So, personal conditions. So, are you aware that running your business may require working 12 hours a day? It may require working Sundays and holidays. I know somebody here that does. Probably a lot of somebodies that already have your business. But particularly if you're in the food business, or if you are the only employee, you're going to be putting in a lot of hours. Do you have the physical stamina? Some of us are getting older. We'd love to do those businesses, but I don't know that some of us have the physical stamina. Do you have emotional strength to deal effectively with pressure? And when you deal with the public, there's a lot of pressure. We don't always understand why people do and say what they do. Are you prepared, if needed, to temporarily lower your standard of living? Or, are you willing to take that money out of your savings account to put into your business? It's a good question. So the other thing that we need to look at is your skills and experience. I've seen people that come in and they want to start a business. They have no clue what they're doing. I mean, they have no idea how to even do a cash register or anything. So usually I encourage them to try to take some classes and get some training before they decide to embark on that journey. Do you know the regulatory issues? And that's where a lot of people get into a little bit of a situation, because just like I think the project that you're working on, Blake, there's tons and tons of regulatory issues out there. Do you feel comfortable using a computer? Now, Some older folks may not, but most of the young folks now, they're really gung-ho about doing any kind of computer function. So have you ever served in a managerial position before? That makes a difference because it's not easy to be a supervisor or a manager. And particularly if you're soft-spoken or if you're a really kind person, it's hard to confront people sometimes. And trust me, they will push your buttons. Do you think that you can be comfortable hiring, disciplining, delegating to employees? I have a hard time delegating. I've been in managerial positions for many years, but I still have a hard time delegating. I don't want to make it uncomfortable for anybody, but sometimes you just have to do what you've got to do. And do you have the basic skills needed for business? Are you willing to delay your plans until you have those skills? So one of the things I love about a business plan is that it will tell you pretty much if you're ready to start that business. Maybe it will say, based on your cash flow projections, you might wait a little bit. Maybe you have less than favorable credit. It might say, okay, let's work on your credit a little bit before we get things started. Maybe the cash flow just isn't there. Businesses fail most of the time because they're undercapitalized. So a business plan will help you think about those types of things. So are you ready? So you're starting on a journey tonight that I'm excited to be a part of. And so, there was a night show host, and I can't even remember the guy's name now, but he loved like top 10 lists, So was it Jay Leno? Was that who it was? Okay. So anyway, this is the top 10 steps to starting your business. First of all, you need to conduct market research. What is that? If you're going to go into a business, do you know what the market looks like out there? Does anybody, have you looked at any data that's out there that might be available through government resources or through, we subscribe, the SBDC subscribes to what's called IBIS World, and IBIS World does industry research for every industry that you can just about think of in the United States. And usually it's within 6 months of being current. So, they will tell you what that market's doing out there. Is it going up? Is it mature? Is it one that's declining? So generally, if you're a client of the SBDC, I can provide you some information relative to what the market's doing out there. You need to choose a business structure, and we're going to go through this. I'm going to run through this real quick, and then we'll go step by step. Choose your business name, pick your business location, write your business plan, start the funding process for your business, obtain your registrations like your federal EIN number, your state tax ID numbers, and you need to register your business unless you're a sole proprietor, and then you would still need to get a fictitious name. Apply for the appropriate business license and permits, and market your business as well as open the shop. So conducting your market research, again, IBIS World is a really great resource. There may be industry magazines out there that might have data. You might have government statistics. If you're starting a restaurant, you might want to see how many people, what the population is in the area. If you're starting something, maybe an assisted living, you may want to look at the population that's over 65. And the census will break some of those age groups down. You might want to do something that's relative to housing. They also break it down by households in the Commonwealth of Virginia as well as the county that you plug into that website. Corporate statistics. Maybe you're already in business. You may already have some data, or maybe there's there's a headquarters that may be doing the same thing, and you may be able to garner some information from them. Historical data is always great. Usually when we're working on a business plan and looking at cash flow projections, if you're getting ready to expand, we would look at the historical data. So if you've been in business 3 years, we like to look at those tax returns for 3 years, because when you itemize on those tax returns, it gives you really good data as to what your expenses were and that type of thing. Contact your local economic development office, and that was Pam back here is the person that you'd talk to because she may have some ideas. Maybe there's some new initiatives that are going on, or maybe they're looking at doing some cluster type things that might benefit your business. So, I always encourage people to talk to their tourism office and their economic development office when they're considering opening a business. Choose your legal entity. There are lots and lots. These are the main ones, or the ones that we generally deal with. There's others such as nonprofits. The SBDC really doesn't do a whole lot with nonprofits simply because we are trying to help get the economy moving. A lot of the projects that we work with, they're looking at data such as job creation and capital investment. So a lot of these programs that you see that are out there that may be government programs that have funding, they're going to be looking at job creation and capital investment. That's always the two things. So typically for the small businesses, the ones that I generally deal with are limited liability. And we could go through, I've got a list and I have a copy of this presentation in each of your folders. I'm not going to go through every one of these, but there are advantages and disadvantages to each one. In certain situations, I always say I really don't push a sole proprietorship because that is the most liability. People, I guess we live in a litigious society, and so people sometimes are looking for ways to sue you. So I try to encourage people to at least get a limited liability company to protect themselves. And of course, the advantages and disadvantages are oftentimes relative to taxes. So again, I won't go through every one of those because it is in your booklet. So we come to the process of naming a name, and some people can just rattle a name off just like that. But there really is a science to naming your business. Avoid hard to spell names. How many of us in today's world, how many of us can say that there's 50 ways to spell one name, And so if it's really hard and people are trying to do Google, then it's really hard to come up with that sometimes. And do not choose a name that's going to limit your, the area that you're in. I saw the other day, I was going toward Abingdon, there was a mobile home place. They sell mobile homes, and it was called Cliffield Homes. And I remember that place used to be at Cliffield in Tazewell County. But when they moved, they moved that name with them. So you don't want to name something Tazewell, something, and then next thing you know, you're moving your business to Richlands. So you have to be careful about that. Make a thorough search on the internet. Use a name that means something. It may not mean anything to anybody else, but it might mean something to you. Make sure that you do a trademark search. There's a lot of we had a craft beverage workshop. We had actually 2 of them last week, and they were talking about the names of the craft beverages now. And one of the issues that many people are having is that it's so wildly popular now all over the country that they're having a difficult time naming their beverage, and they are those beverages are the names are copyrighted. And they're getting letters. People are getting letters saying, do not use that label anymore because I have it copyrighted or I have it registered. So you have to be careful, about making sure that you don't use someone else's name. The other thing, it can cause some issues with taxes because if it's similar, maybe they owe taxes and you don't, but you may wind up having to pay. So just be careful about that. Also conduct a state corporation commission. So if you go into the Virginia State Corporation, just Google it, State Corporation Commission, you can go in and do an entity search, and it will tell you if that name is available. Talk to your friends and your relatives. See if the name is catchy. Is it something that, catches your eye as soon as you hear it? And get feedback on that name. Make sure it sounds good. You don't want something that's going to be off brand or whatever. And then there's some resources that you can actually check for, like maybe you have a name picked out, but it's already taken. So there are some websites that you can go to that can let you know if those names, maybe there's a synonym that you could use for that. And then make sure that you're happy with the name, because you're going to be living with it for a long time. Okay, so the location. Most people usually already have a location when they are starting a business. They already have a place in mind, but make sure that you have the proper electric, water, sewer, internet service, whatever it is that you're going to need. Make sure that you're in an area that folks are going to use your products. I mean, you might be selling a product that people don't even like. Not so much here, but there are areas like my husband's from Texas, and he said there was a place down in New Mexico that one time they sold, they took a lot of red trucks to this area, and that was the red. The people hated red. I mean, it was just not a color that they would use because of their culture. And so they didn't sell those red trucks. So, that may not be the case here, but there could be some things that, that you want to be aware of. Okay. Research your competitors. Do you know what your competitors are doing? Do you know what makes your product better or your service better? Be sneaky. Go look and see what they're doing. Okay, and then contact your councils. Your local, state, federal, they all have guidelines. You want to know that you're compliant with those guidelines. And then consider the future, current and future needs of your business. So again, that goes back to the naming. Make sure that your future growth is not going to be impeded because you've named it something relative to where you are now. So think about the future, because you do want that business to grow. One of the things that I guess I do the most of is business plans. I do not actually do them, but I give people guidance. I have templates that I can help you with. There's a lot of good information, and anybody have an idea of why a business plan is usually requested by a funder, whether it's a bank or a government entity?
I'd say it's because they want to know that you know what you're doing.
Absolutely. They want to know who, what, when, where, why, and how. But more importantly, they want to know you know who, what, when, where, why, and how. They want to know that you know your business. So the business plan, the template that I have, and you can go online, and Sandy's given you a template, I think, on your thumb drive, but you can go online and there's some really pretty templates. They have nice charts, they have nice pictures. You're welcome to do that. But usually when you get to the end of entering all that good information about your business, they ask for your credit card. The SBDC does have a template that we provide that has really good information. Now, it's not real fancy, it's not real pretty, but it's practical, and it does provide all the information that you would ever need relative to a business plan. So generally, the first part is the executive summary. That's going to be the first section, but that's the last thing that you prepare. The next part, and the reason that's the last thing that you prepare is because that's going to be a summary of everything that you have written about the detailed information in your business plan. So the next thing is going to be your product, service, or business model. So what is your product? What makes yours unique? How does it work? Just give details. If you're a descriptive person, describe whatever that is. The next part is going to be management team. Who's the manager? Who's going to be responsible for the day-to-day operation? If it's you, then that needs to be very specific. That management person needs to be very specific. But you're going to have support personnel as well. Now, maybe generally a business plan is 3 to 5 years, depending on the funding agency, what they require. But maybe year one, you may say, well, it's just going to be me. Year 2, you may add one person, and maybe it's just a part-time person. So the management person, that's going to be a very detailed description of who you are. What's your background? What's your qualifications to run that business? What's your education background? Whatever you want to put in there that proves that you're capable of running that business. Maybe you've done it for years. The next part would be support personnel. So that support person, that's going to be a job description because you may not even know who that person is. It's going to be about a job. So maybe it's an administrative assistant. What's that person going to do? They're going to be responsible for correspondence or for answering the phone or whatever. So the support personnel is just about a job description. Market analysis. Okay, that goes back to the IBIS World or to the industry magazines or to any, maybe the population, the U.S. Census. If you were in healthcare, you might want to go to maybe one of the Department of Health for data. You may want to go to the Department of Social Services. I've been working with a client that wants to do medical taxi. And so, who's going to use that service? You need to know. You need to have some statistics to find out what that, who's going to use that service and how many people are available to do that. Okay, marketing plan. Okay, that's really key to getting the word out. And it depends, too, on your business. I just mentioned the medical taxi. Most of the time, they will, in this area, they will partner with somebody like Logisticare, who is in Wise County, because they do all of the coordinating and they just actually drive for them. But it may be that you want people coming to your store. Vicki, you want people coming there all the time, and I see your Facebook posts all the time relative to the new products, and I mean, it makes me want to drive to Tazewell to come in there. So there's social media, there's websites. Websites are huge because what is the first thing we do when we want to find out something? We Google, the new verb. So marketing, and again, there's lots and lots of different ways to market. I mean, you could do a billboard, you could do radio, TV, social media, blogs. There's just tons and tons of ways that you can do that. But I think most people today, because it is less expensive, is they do the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, and those types of social media. It does. It really does. And you can boost. Do you boost your?
I have a couple of a few times.
So that I think that gets it out a little bit further. So timeline. I'm one of these people that I'll say, I just really want to do this, but I'll do it tomorrow, and I keep putting it off. If you have a plan and you know that you've got to get from point A to point B, then you need to have a to-do list. And if you're going to plan to open on June the 1st, 2020, then that's going to be your goal, is June 1st, 2020. And then you back that timeline up. I've got to have funding. I've got to renovate a space. I've got to get equipment. I've got to have that business plan in order to get funding. I've got to contact the banks. I'm a list person, and I think lists are awesome because you can check those off and you can actually see that you're getting something accomplished. So do a timeline, assign dates. If you know that say you're applying for a grant, and I'll tell you about a grant opportunity in just a few minutes, but when you know that grant deadline is coming up, then you need to know that you've got to have that application completed, you've got to have the business plan completed, you've got to have your cash flow projections and your income projections completed. So that timeline is critical. You also need the financial income and cash flow projections, and then what is the plan potential? What do you think this is going to accomplish, So I mentioned cash flow and income statements. The income statement basically is a projection. It's like, okay, if I sell this many widgets, I'm going to make this much money in a year. But, and boy, I'm going to make a lot of money. But then You look at the cost of goods sold. What did it cost you to make that widget, or to, maybe you bought a t-shirt for $10, you sold the t-shirt for $20. Half of that was your cost, right? So you've got to figure out what it cost you. Now, if you're providing a service, for the most part, there may not be a cost of good. But if you're selling products, you're going to have cost of goods. We're going to come up with a gross profit, and then we're going to come up with all these different expenses. You've got your accounting and legal, your advertising, car delivery, travel. You've got insurance. You've got payroll expenses. Payroll expenses usually are about 15% of what your payroll is. So, I have people come in all the time with, well, this is how much my payroll is going to be, and I'll say, did you include your taxes, like your state, federal, and Social Security? Ooh, I forgot that. So, add another 15% to that. Property tax, if you own that property, maybe you rent, maybe you lease. Repairs and maintenance, that's another thing that you need to think about. If you're leasing a piece of property, or if you are renting a facility, you need to be sure that when you are looking at your lease, you need to know, am I responsible for the repairs and maintenance, or is the landlord? You want to make sure that you've got all those bases covered. The other key thing that you need to know is that you have an out. One of our expert customer service folks tells a story that he and his brother were really making it big, and they had, I don't know how many stores in malls. This was several years ago, and they were doing great. Their product was shoes. It was Earth shoes, and they were made in, I think, Sweden. Well, something happened that they couldn't get their products to the stores, and they had leased all these store spaces in malls, and they wound up going belly up. They bankrupted because they couldn't get the product. So, and they didn't have an opt-out on their lease. So, I mean, they were making millions of dollars, and they didn't have an opt-out. So it took everything they had to get out of their leases. So be sure that you make sure what's in that lease. There's two things I always say. Be sure you talk to an accountant. Be sure you talk to an attorney, because you don't want IRS problems, and you don't want legal issues. The other thing is insurance. Insurance is always usually a big expense, but you want to make sure that you're properly protected, that you have liability insurance. Workers' comp, if you have 3 employees, and that includes yourself, that include even if you're part-time, if your employees are part-time, be sure you have workers' comp, because you can be fined heavily if you do not have workers' comp. But the renter's insurance, there's just all kinds of different policies that you need to think about when you're getting ready to do your income statement. Supplies, that could be office supplies, cleaning supplies. It could be things that you need to make that business operate. Utilities. Now, I see a lot of the entrepreneurs now, instead of getting an expensive commercial landline, a lot of them, they have their cell phones with them all the time, so that's what they use. So you could do that if that's what you want to do. And then, your water, your sewer, your Wi-Fi. Most everybody expects Wi-Fi when you're out and about now. So lots of expenses. So when we do this, we put your revenue, and you've really made a lot of money. You've knocked it out of the park. But then when you account for all these expenses, it's usually you're lucky to break even. Cash flow. So this looks a whole lot like the income statement. But if you notice, the cash flow has cash on hand. So if you've opened up a business account, you may have, I don't know, $500. You might have $1,000. You might have $0. Most people need to have at least some money in that cash on hand when they start. I had a client call me the other day, and they were wanting to register with the State Corporation Commission and get their FEIN number. And they said, well, we can't afford to do that. And my reaction was, my gut reaction was, then don't start. Because if you can't afford to do that, what kind of business are you going to have? I didn't say that, but I really wanted to, because it worried me to think that somebody would start a business and not even have enough money to get the basics you know. So anyway, the cash flow is going to have a loan or grant. So if you are going into business and you need a piece of machinery, you may have to go borrow money. So if you do that, then we need to reflect that in your cash flow. Your cash receipts are going to be the same thing as the revenue. So whatever it is that you make or sell or your service, that's going to be your cash receipts. So again, we're going to look at your cost of goods. So again, if you buy the t-shirt, you know, and you have 50% tied up in that and you sell that t-shirt, then you need to reflect that in your expenses. All of the expenses that we had in your income statement, we're going to have all of those in your cash flow. But then you look down at the bottom and there says loan payment. Okay, so we have an amortization schedule. So if you knew about how much money you needed to borrow, if you knew what your term is, and if you know what your interest rate is, then we can come up pretty close to what the bank's amortization schedule is. So you're going to have the interest in your regular expenses, but we're going to take out your loan payment, your principal payment down here. So you borrowed, let's say $40,000. You bought that piece of equipment, that's going to be canceled out down here in your capital purchases. So then we figure in the taxes. What's it going to cost? You know, how much income tax are you going to have to pay on your business? And once we do all that, we come up with your cash position. So that first statement, the income statement, shows you how much money you have coming in after you've paid your bills and your taxes. So how much money you've actually made. The second one will show you how much cash on hand you have. This second one is really critical because if you don't have cash on hand, you can't pay your vendors, you can't pay your employees, and that type of thing. So cash flow is really key. I do have these as templates. I have a copy of the business plan as a template, and I also have the financial templates. So if you're working on your business plan, if you need help, please call me. I'm happy to help you, even with the competition. So the other thing is you have to start your funding process. Personal savings, that's usually the first thing that goes. You know, if you get into a situation and you say, we don't have enough money to pay the bills, so what do? If you have a personal savings account, that's usually where it comes from. A traditional bank loan. And those are expensive, and most of the time a traditional bank will not fund money for inventory or working capital, meaning salaries. So there are some agencies out there like People Incorporated. They have a microloan fund. They may charge more interest because they do assume more responsibility, but they may be able to fund something with working capital and inventory. Family and friends, and who wants to go to your family and friends to ask for money? That's always, you know, a sticky situation. Again, the government programs. So there's, like I said, there's People Incorporated. Now Sandy's Virginia Community Capital, you know, they have funds. They're not micro funds. They're 125,000. 150. Okay, thank you. So if you need 150 or more, then you know, go talk to Sandy's folks. But you know, most of the entrepreneurial type folks are looking at smaller amounts to borrow. So there is a program. Has anybody here heard of VCTA, the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority? Debbie? Okay. So VCTA is an economic development organization. What they do is normally they try to market the region to other areas to try to get businesses to come in, bigger companies, manufacturing companies, IT companies. I guess maybe 2 years ago they decided that, you know, they had worked with a lot of the larger type projects, but they realized that there was a gap for the entrepreneurial person and the startup person. So they decided to start a seed capital matching fund. And with that seed capital matching fund, there, of course, are a lot of caveats. You have to have a business plan. You have to be in business less than a year. You have to have a dollar-for-dollar match. So the maximum amount that you can request through this seed capital matching fund is $10,000. But if you ask for $10,000, you've got to show receipts for $10,000. If that you do have to create one full-time job. So you know some of the guidelines seem very similar to what this business challenge is. So if you are a new startup business and you're interested in maybe looking into that, I would encourage you to contact me, because you would need to work with me on that, and then we would help you get that application submitted. So basically, just as an overview, you determine what the business entity is. You register with the State Corporation Commission if you're a limited liability or if you're a corporation. You obtain a federal employer ID number through the IRS. You determine if you're going to be liable for Virginia unemployment tax. So if you're hiring people, more than likely you will be. You register with them. Then you register with the Department of Taxation. You satisfy the local license requirements. So that could be a business license. It may be that the type of business that you do, you may have to get a health department certificate or a VDAX, a Virginia Agriculture and Consumer Service certificate. So you need to make sure that you satisfy any type of regulatory license. And it could be if you're in the town, in Tazewell County. If you're in the town, you do have to have a business license. If you're located in the county, you do not have to have a business license at this time. Okay, so we just talked about that. Okay, your marketing strategy, again, we talked a little bit about that when we were talking about the business plan. So there's all kinds of different options. One thing that I highly encourage clients to do is join the Chamber of Commerce. Tazewell County now has one Chamber of Commerce, and so there's more members, there's more networking. These are professional folks that will help. I mean, they like to find out what the new products are, and they help promote each other. So join your local Chamber of Commerce. Also, you need to talk to your, maybe go to a Board of Supervisor meeting or to a tourism meeting, because you learn all kinds of good stuff about what's going on in the county. So get involved in your local government. Even the IDA, these meetings are open to the public. Now, they may have some executive sessions, but they are open to the public, and it's amazing what you'll learn. Become visible. And then again, join the chambers or civic organizations or professional associations and attend the board meetings. I'm getting ahead of myself. So are you ready to start your business? If you are, then start working. Oops, watch me fall. Okay, so if you are ready to start your business, that's awesome. There's also some things that you can do if you're an existing business. And I encourage you, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but there are lots of resources out there. It might be workforce development resources. It might be funding resources. Call the county office. Call the SBDC. But let us know if you have ideas or if you have needs that we might be able to help you with. I don't know everything, but I sure do usually know who to call. So please give us a call. And again, just remember that our services are free and they're confidential. The other resource that we have at Southwest Virginia Community College is called PTAC. It's the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. What they do is they help businesses sell to the government. So I don't know if you've heard of SWAM certifications, but if you're a small woman and minority-owned business, then there's a registration that you can go through. The government sets aside a lot of money every year to help small woman and minority-owned businesses. So that's something that, if you have more questions about that, let me know. And that's my contact information. I really appreciate your all's time. Are there any questions or Burns. All right. Who's next?
Thank you, Margie. I just want to thank Margie and Sandy real quick. Margie did mention that to call the Economic Development Office. I usually get 2 times of phone calls. One is, where can I get some of that free money? And the other is, I'm looking to start a business, so I just sit them on Margie. But Margie and Sandy are really good support for the county and for anybody else looking to start a business or needing help. And I appreciate all of their hard work. We have a lot of agencies around in the region that works together to help businesses grow. So if you ever need anything, like I said, I'll be glad to visit or give me a call. And Marco Warner with Trust Point Insurance, we're going to turn it over to him.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate that, and I'm not here to talk about insurance. I am the self-proclaimed mayor of Clifffield. Don't get excited about that either, because my wife is the self-proclaimed queen of Clifffield, and evidently that trumps mayoral status. So a couple things to follow up on what Margie said that is insurance related. Even though you're not required to have workers' compensation insurance, if you have 3 or fewer employees, you are still responsible for the injuries of that employee on your job site, whether you have insurance or not. So not having it could be significantly more costly to you than having it. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the way we started, because it's relevant in what you all are doing. I work for a family-owned business. We were primarily writing coal insurance to coal companies. I started in '89. In 1993, my mother and I purchased the agency from my grandfather, and in '94, the coal market collapsed. Back then, there was very creative financing arrangements on these deals, and we lost a lot of money. We wound up having to sell the agency. I went to work for a large national insurance broker. I worked for them from '94 until 2006, when my current business partner asked me to start Trust Point Insurance. And we bought $1.2 million of revenue and 10 employees company from the large national broker here in Southwest Virginia. The banks would not lend us money. We didn't have enough personal credit, didn't have enough personal cash. We had to be creative about that. So we did what's called nowadays, we didn't know what it was called back then, but we did what's called nowadays a peer-to-peer lending program in that situation. So we went to someone who was in the insurance business that was very successful. We got them to fund our purchase of that business in a peer-to-peer relationship, and we paid 7.5% interest for that loan, which was in the 7 figures. That was very costly to us. But we did not give up equity in that deal, and we structured it on 10-year amortization for 3 years, and I'll tell you why. We paid that loan down. We managed our cash flow. We did not pay ourselves any distributions during that time. And at the end of that 3-year period, when that note came due, what was left on that, we went to the conventional banks, and we got a loan. You follow me? And we got that loan at 4.5% interest. So there's a couple things that you learn from this lesson. We didn't give up equity in order to raise capital. We looked for some type of solution beyond a conventional bank, because a lot of times conventional banks, they're so highly regulated today, even compared to then, that they can't lend you money as a new startup. Or if they do lend you money, they want your cousins and your brothers and your sisters and your parents or whatever to co-sign with you. In some instances, that's not fair. Or those folks then become part of your business, and you might not necessarily want that. Our business today, we have 52 employees. We have 4 locations throughout the state of Virginia, and we've been in existence for 13 years, and 3 years ago we started paying ourselves dividends. We changed from an LLC to S Corp. And so we went 10 years where we paid ourselves as employees in order to scale our business and grow our business and manage our cash. I made a list of a couple of things that I'll share with you tonight on the types of financing that's out there, besides some of the things that you hear about in different seminars or read or whatever. And but these are my experiences. We currently write over 150 new startup businesses throughout our organization on an annual basis. These startup businesses range anywhere from $10,000 in seed money all the way up to, we recently did a deal on a new startup where they raised $75 million of capital on day one. Startups are only limited by your own personal limitation. That's it. If you have the right idea, you have the right product knowledge, you can tell somebody exactly what you do and do it very well, the sky's the limit. Because there are people out there will fund you. But you have to ask yourself, what am I willing to give up in order to get that money? And I will tell you, one of the bullet points on my page here is, if you give up equity in raising capital for your business, you more than likely will never get that back. And that's the most costly money that you can borrow in starting up a new business. So the types of alternative seed money startup things that are out there, vendor financing. I recently worked with a lady who was starting a laboratory. She pitched me and my friends the idea of raising $2 million of seed money. She was going to give straight equity for that $2 million. She was willing to give up 40% of her company for that $2 million to start up that business. Now, this business was going to scale and make an astronomical amount of money later on. That 40%, I convinced her that there's a better alternative to that, because that equity she's never going to get back in looking for that money. She went to a vendor that was supplying the laboratory equipment, told her about her plans. They came in, they sold it to her 10 over cost, saved her $1 million on the equipment, and they financed it themselves at a 3% interest loan. And in addition to that, she wound up only having to raise $500,000. She reevaluated the valuation of the company, sold the rest of the equity that she needed for working capital, and only wound up giving up 10% of her company in that capital raise. That's huge. That's huge. Because now she makes $1 million, she gets to keep $900,000 of it, rather than $600,000 of it. That's my point. Don't give up equity. And vendor financing is always a possibility, even in a coffee shop. Sometimes these folks will do that for you, and they tend to be less restrictive than the conventional banks. Purchase order financing, factoring accounts receivable financing, IRA financing, microloans, nonprofit world availability. You heard a little bit about that tonight. It wasn't available when we were starting our business. Federal, state, and local incentives. I mean, there's all kinds of money out there. You just have to find it. And all of these things that are on this list, you can Google it and find information about it. Business angels or angel investors, they're out there. My friends and I, I currently am an investor in over 14 startup businesses. And I love doing it. I like seeing what people are doing out there and how they're growing and changing lives and making life changers. So those angel investors are there. I personally have done everything from straight bridge loans to convertible bridge loans to straight equity purchase, Series A, Series B deals. Those are all kind of complicated things, but they're doable if you have the willpower and you do all of your homework in order to get that going. Crowdfunding is becoming very popular. Are you guys familiar with crowdfunding? Crowdfunding is becoming very popular. I mentioned the peer-to-peer lending, which is what we did. We convinced somebody that we could do it. We just had to pay a higher interest rate in order to do that. Private and public venture capital, venture debt, and that venture capital and venture debt exists on a micro level as well as it does on a major level. Family and friends financing is the easiest, but I will tell you it will give you more headache than you ever want to deal with. I put that very low on the list. Self-financing. Sometimes people ought to just make enough money, make enough savings, put together their own personal capital, and do their business startup a year down the road. I mean, that's certainly something that you can consider. And then obviously whatever you can get from a personal credit standpoint. You can structure any of these in types of financing arrangements in a multitude of ways. Conventional bank financing is very difficult, and it's not because they don't want to lend the money; it's because they're so regulated at this point that it's very difficult for them to do things. I wrote on here that giving up equity is costly. Sometimes that might be the way that you have to get things done. Alternative financing is not necessarily easier than conventional bank financing, but the difficulties are just different. You follow me on that? It's just different. If you came to me and you asked me for money to fund a business, I'm going to tell you the first thing you got to do is have a business plan. You're going to have me a strong pro forma. That pro forma has got to be perfect. No pro forma has ever been perfect, but it's got to be perfect for the presentation part of it. The third thing you're going to have to tell me is you're going to have to tell me how you are personally going to invest in your time, energy, and money in that business so I know you've got skin in it. If you are doing something part-time and you come to me and ask me for investment, you're not getting it, I guarantee it. You've got to have skin in the game if you're going to go out here and pitch something to somebody other than a bank to ask them for money. And then you have to have product knowledge. You ask me what we do and how we do it better, and I guarantee I can tell you better than anybody else in the business. If not, I need to go work some more. But you've got to know it. You've got to know it inside and out. Everything about you, you have to know it. And I can tell you from experience that those 12-hour days, that's bullcrap. If you're a business owner, it's 24/7, 365 a year, and don't let anybody tell you any different. Because you got to live it, you got to breathe it, and that's all you got to do. Because it's what makes you. One thing about alternative financing in this is your credit score doesn't matter. So, we just recently, a group of my friends, we invested in a company in Atlanta. Two 24-year-old kids, they raised $3 million of seed money in a convertible bridge note with a valuation cap on that business of $14 million. $14 million. They have the idea, they know what they're doing, they have a rock solid plan, and they're going out to set the world on fire. And I mention this to you because here's two young people right out of college who've got business people to give them that kind of money for 10% ownership in their business. And they even convinced us that they didn't have to pay us interest on the convertible note if we converted to equity. So it's a rock solid idea, and if you got it down, people will give you the money, I promise. But you got to know what you're talking about. A couple of other things I will tell you about business is cash is king. We run our business with 60 days cash, not a penny less. Not a dime goes out of our business into our pocket if we can't show on our income statement that we have over 60 days of cash. I know that's not possible for everybody. I mean, we used to live on 15 days and I went home and worried and didn't sleep. But we run on 60 days of cash. Undercapitalized businesses go under. And if you don't have working capital, you will fail. I guarantee, I don't care how good you are, all that other stuff about product knowledge. If you are undercapitalized and you don't have working capital, you will fail. And I want you to think about that real hard, because you're going to spend time and energy putting something together, and if you can't make that cash, then you can't make it. It is critical. Everything is negotiable. Don't let anybody tell you any different, so negotiate. There is nothing that's presented to you that you can't ask questions about, that you can't think of another alternative. Every single thing is negotiable. Do you believe that, Vicki? Do you believe that? I'm telling you this because I've learned this from experience. Just because somebody puts something in front of you and they seem smarter or better than you, doesn't mean that you cannot negotiate it. So negotiate. Everything in America is negotiable. Everything that someone tells you is not true. All right? It might be coming from their perspective, but just because they tell it to you doesn't mean that that's true for your business. I should put a U on the end of that. Because when you hear things, if I tell you, you know what? You know, this business plan stinks. Are you going to believe me?
No.
Well, but you can say, what parts of it do I need to change in order to make it better? You see the difference. Also, if somebody tells you that if you do this, this is going to happen, that doesn't always happen. My wife tells me that all the time. It never happens. But, exactly. But my point is, though, question everything, think about it, because we cannot, as an entrepreneur, you cannot be a linear thinker. And I did not put that on my sheet, and you might want to write that down. But if you are a linear thinker, you probably are going to fail in business. Everything that you do for your business is going to have an impact somewhere in that business. You taking a vacation, you taking $10 out of the cash box, you doing this, you doing every single thing that you do in that business is going to have an impact on that business. So you've got to be able to think about, if I do this, what's going to happen over here? You think globally. Think about all the situations that can happen. Think about how what you're doing today is going to impact your ability to be able to scale your business down the road. Last 2 points I will make here for you. Something that wasn't mentioned tonight, I would encourage you guys to put this in your slide presentations. It might have been touched on a little bit by Marjorie, but you need to have wise counsel and business advisors. Wise counsel and business advisors. It's critical to your success, but most importantly, it's critical to your credibility. It's critical to your credibility. If you are friends with some successful business guy down the road, you're pitching your ideas back and forth to him, getting that impact. When it comes time for you to go to the bank, Blake, and you go to the bank and he's on your list, that gives you credibility. It also gives you ideas. My business today is not the business that it is because of me or my business partner or the two of us together. It's because we sought wise counsel. We have business advisors that helped us along the way, that we shared ideas with. Will this work? How will this impact our business? What difference will this make in our marketing strategy? Blah, blah, blah. You cannot do it alone. But you also have to be able to trust the person with your IP, that's intellectual property. You also have to be able to trust your wise counsel with your IP. So don't ever do anything without an NDA. You know, I might share my stuff with my mom or my father-in-law or somebody, but when it comes to people that are not in my inner circle, they don't see my stuff unless they sign an NDA. That's a non-disclosure agreement, for those of you that don't know. It's a protection that we have to have nowadays. So, a couple of other notes that I made. Not every business is the same. Our advertising budget is 0.1% of our gross annual revenue. It's how we do business. But you cannot do that if you are marketing insurance the way that Geico markets it, for example. Their advertising budget is over 17% of their gross annual revenue. It's how you go about business. You've got to figure out how you're going to get your information out there. I mean, I know I'm married to her and I'm very proud of her. My wife has no business background. She is a fine arts major. She's gone into business to some degree with my daughter. I'll talk about that in just a second. But my wife, she started taking these $25 a month classes on the internet on how to market her product on Facebook. If any of you have ever seen my wife's Facebook post, I mean, they are absolutely phenomenal. And she's done this all on her own. Cost her $25 a month to learn how to do that. She's getting over 400 views on about 60%. I'm sorry, she's getting over 400 shares on about 60% of what she posts. And she's selling antiques out of her garage in Cliffield, Virginia. It's absolutely amazing. And she's done all this on her own. I know Vicki has her number. She can share that with you. It's fantastic what she's been doing. And then the last thing I will tell you is my daughter came to me about a year and a half ago and said, Daddy, I want to start a business. I need you to help me write a business plan. I said, I've been down that road, I've done that, I'm not going to do it. She said, what do you mean you're not going to help me? I said, no, I'm going to help you. I'm just going to make you do it. Because when you do that, you begin to learn things that you never can imagine that you would have known about business. She called Margie Douglas. She thinks Margie Douglas walks on water, by the way. And she's Margie's biggest advertisement. But she went over there, she did all the things that they're requiring you to do here. She cried, she laughed, but the most important thing is she learned. And when that was all said and done, she went to the bank and she got a little bit of money. She also got some Visita money for her project. And she's actually doing very well in her little business in Richlands. And all of that was because I said no, maybe. No, really, it was because of the effort that she put into it and what she did with Margie. And I mean, the resources that they have available over there are absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I will tell you that everything they've asked you to do here, if you came to my little group of business folks that invest in businesses and you hadn't done that, you're not getting through the door. You're not getting through the door. So keep that in mind. I will answer any questions. I work 24/7, 365 days a year. My phone's never off. It rang this morning at 5:52, and it'll ring tonight at 11 o'clock. So I encourage all of you to persevere, because if you don't have perseverance, you're not going anywhere as an entrepreneur. Any questions? There's no dumb ones. All right, I wish you all the best of luck.
Sandy told me to go through my job, and I'm following the boss's orders. I do want to encourage you all to stay involved in workshops and everything. I'm always taking away something new every time I go. Maybe it's because I forgot I already learned it, but who knows. But anyway, I do want to thank Marco, Margie, and Sandy, and I want to remind you all that if you do want to work with Margie to get your business plan together, please contact her immediately. Don't wait until the last minute, because it takes a while to put those together. And if you all have any last minute questions for her or Sandy, please hit them up now before they get out the door. Somebody got anything? Okay, next week we are in Richlands at the town hall, and we will be discussing legal, accounting, and I think insurance.
It's an expert panel, so come
Yes.
with your questions. This is your opportunity to be in front of an attorney, a CPA, and insurance.
Exactly.
And as Marco said, there are no dumb questions, just those.
I will be there, by the way, so you don't have to put up with me.
So do you, really give them a rough time next week? Just kidding. But have a lot of questions for them so you get all of them answered. We appreciate everybody coming and look forward to the next round the workshop, so thank you all.